Soldiers, sailors, airmen and women enlist in the armed forces for many reasons, including a sense of duty, patriotism, the adventure, travel, and adrenaline. When service members are injured or wounded and can no longer perform their military duties, they quickly find themselves removed from their team, no longer serving the purpose for which they trained.
I came back from Afghanistan in 2013, and it was kind of a trial and error of finding out, after the military, what's next in life.
Motorsports offers an opportunity to regain that sense of identity within a safe, fast-paced team environment, providing a renewed sense of purpose. Like in the military, in motorsports, the goal is in accomplishing the mission, winning as a team, collectively celebrating the successes and supporting teammates through the losses. Operation Motorsport also offers virtual engagements and recovery opportunities through an iRacing league, engaging beneficiaries in a safe, competitive environment from the comfort and safety of their home. Operation Motorsport believes in the power of team, identity, and purpose.
Hello, this is Jason with Operation Motorsport. We'd like to introduce you to some of our beneficiaries who were active during the GT World Challenged SRO race at New Orleans Motorsport Park this past weekend.
This weekend I've been over here with Race Control, and it's basically been seeing behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz kind of thing, kind of get to peek behind the curtain and see all the stuff that's actually happening and what makes all these things on the track actually work. Essential thing, and it is like being in a TOC, a Tactical Operations Center, in a deployment scenario, surprisingly. So you're in there and all these screens, all this activity, things are going 100 miles an hour, and everybody is juggling 7 things at once. Whenever there's any sort of race event, whether it's just laps that people are doing or if it is an incident that's happening during a race or something like that, all of the things that happen that we see manifest themselves in terms of a race. These are things, and these are all the people who are pulling the strings and pulling the levers to make it all happen. So Operation Motorsport is all about having a team identity and purpose and kind of restoring that for people who left the military like myself and no longer really have that sort of source for that. And this is a way to this has been a way for me to reinvigorate that kind of same part of me that otherwise I don't really get. It doesn't really scratch that itch. But it's meant a lot. It's meant a great deal to me to actually be able to kind of activate that part of my own brain and that part of my own self that otherwise is just kind of going dormant.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 4th round of the 6th season of Operation Motorsport iRacing League, live from iRacing's virtual Suzuka International Racecourse in Suzuka. Suzuka is in Mie Prefecture in Japan, and I am your host, Rachel Whiteford, joined tonight by my colleague in the booth, Rodney Campbell, and our producer for this evening, Gary Sexton. Gary's using cameras created by the great Dougie Beard. Well, Rodney, we have a huge race tonight, of course. Suzuka, a phenomenal track and great for the GT cars as always, but tell us a little bit more about this racetrack.
Yeah, it's a super fun track that I'm sure that the guys are looking forward to driving tonight compared to last week at COTA. This track has a bit of everything, some long stretches, some sweeping eases to start, and then some tight corners and sweeping corners. So you've got to be on your game for high speed as well as low speed throughout the course, and it's going to test our drivers tonight, and we're going to see how they manage this track. It's a beautiful track, and I'm sure they're going to enjoy it.
Certainly is, of course. Don't forget that Operation eMotorsport iRacing League is a structured virtual racing series that brings together beneficiaries, veterans, military members, race car drivers and crew members, and other supporters for the Foundation to compete in a friendly virtual sports car environment. Operation Motorsport is a veteran-led and operated not-for-profit foundation based in Raleigh, North Carolina and Brighton, Ontario. They serve both American and Canadian service members and veterans, and its program is based on 3 core values: team, identity, and purpose. Operation Motorsport supports the recovery of politically retiring and retired service members affected by military service through motorsport opportunities. Our motto is one at a time. Hashtag one at a time. Well, let's not forget we have 4 categories technically in tonight's race. Those are GT4 and GT3 cars. In the GT3 cars you'll have the Pro cars and the Pro beneficiaries. Now, the Pros are competition license holders in IMSA, SRO, CTC and other bodies, and iRacers with a road license over 1900. Pro beneficiaries are the guys who are beneficiaries of the series who are just too darn fast. The GT4 classes we have are the beneficiaries, and they are enrolled in any of Operation Motorsport's programs, and their coverage of course is covered for them. And we have the open class drivers, and they are serving military members or veterans not in an Operation Motorsport program, staff, volunteers and supporters of Operation Motorsport. So of course tonight we're expecting to have a very good race here at Suzuka. The track is always exciting for this, and of course we have some really good ones coming up as well, which should be exciting. But this track, Rodney, it really does present some unique challenges, from fast flowing corners to very tight technical sections, big straights. We're going to see a really interesting race, I think, here, in a bigger field than last week.
Yeah, we've got a good field here tonight, so should see some good nose-to-tail racing here. Get some. Course tends to get some mini trains going because it can be tough to pass, but if you put your mind to it and stick your nose in there, you can get the passes done on this course. What I like about it is just the variation of the course. You're looking at the front straight here as Ed Nelson takes his qualifying laps. And a big flowing corner here into turn 1 that brings you right immediately into some eases, left rights, very high speed. You've got to get your car set up right for these corners to make the best of them. But it's an exciting course, and I'm sure we'll see some action here, both on and off the track.
Certainly will. Now, just like some of the tracks, this one does have some consequences. Not a huge amount of concrete runoff here, other than 130R, the famous corner, which we will see a little later in this lap. There's a lot of sand traps and gravel traps. We have grass runoff here. Corners at the Degners will be difficult, of course. That's what we're seeing Rodney come through right now. We have the old hairpin down towards the bottom here. And then we have 230R, I think it is, coming up shortly, or 180R. It varies sometimes what these corners are called. I can never quite remember, there's so many of them. But then we have the spoon down here at the bottom. This is a tricky one, of course. A double apex left that sets you up for a huge run here up this back straight, Rodney.
Yeah, very important to get a good run off this corner because of the big straight here that Ed is just about to get onto here. And you can see it's a big long straight, so you want to carry as much speed out of that corner down this straight because it's flat out all the way down to the bend or elbow at turn 14. We're here, a very high-speed corner to the left, and then coming into the final chicane before the start-finish straight.
Absolutely. Oh, we do have a new entry tonight. That's Nate Stacey in the pro class. Nate is, I believe, looking at the cars at the moment, just heading off pit road. They're in a Porsche. We'll see what they can do in terms of ranking themselves amongst tonight's races. Now, we've seen some great runs from some of these guys, and of course, we had, Mr. Knight was on the podium last week. Let's see if he can repeat that in this week's affair. Get himself on the podium again. It's a great showing for him last time out, so we hope for the best for him. But of course, this race is about the sporting event itself, Rodney. This is about guys coming together to have fun race. Whilst we talk about winners, we talk about points. It's not about that, is it? It's about...
No, it's about the camaraderie, and absolutely, you're not going to see racing tonight where people are going to be running each other off the road to gain a position. Everybody plays fair. It's people are friends after and before the races, so it's not a win at all costs type of event, but it's but in the same time, the people are competitive here, and they're going to try to do their best. They're just not going to run the car off in front of them to do that, at least not intentionally.
No, if we do see incidents, they tend to be racing incidents, mistakes, or just unfortunate happenings. We don't tend to see deliberate or more, should we say, aggressive incidents happening in this series. But of course, qualifying well and truly underway now. We're starting to get some times on the board here. Looking at Matt Smotherman putting up a great time at the top. 1:59.7 is the time to beat right now. And we're seeing a lot of these times here on the board. A couple more laps for them. So we've got a 2-minute lap here. Or, well, 2:10, 2:15 sort of thing. If we're looking at the GT4 cars, Rodney, that's a lot of lap time around a circuit.
Yeah, it's a big course with a lot of stuff happening. About 10 seconds difference between the GT3 and the GT4 cars, so we will probably at some point have the GT3 cars make their way through the field of the GT4 cars, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle the lap traffic here at a course that's a little tighter than it was last week at COTA.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, here we are, qualifying coming to a close in about 2 minutes' time. As, in fact, no, we have exactly 3 minutes on the board left for qualifying. A lot of people have set laps already. We're expecting to see times from Martin Wallace and Nate Stacey for your pro class. But otherwise, we're looking for a strong run by Greg Meismer in the beneficiaries, and Connor Parisi, who will be our beneficiary spotlight later in the show, so don't miss that. And Nick Melarania there for the open class with Felipe Carrillo in second currently for them. Matt Yost is there in the third spot of the beneficiaries. Strong running by some of those beneficiary drivers tonight. Bradley Beeman has just put up a time. 2:10.4 for him, making him one of the fastest open class driver right now. They've been beaten out by Meismer, who's into the 2:09, so it's a pretty darn good lap there from Meismer, I think, Rodney.
Yeah, we're seeing some good laps here. Some guys have put some practice in for this course, and they've got 10 minutes and 4 laps to set the time, so their fastest time doesn't necessarily come on the first lap out. So once the tires get warmed up and they get a couple of laps in, or they bank a lap, as they call it, you want to get a lap, you want to establish a time, because if you get an off course or put your tires in the grass, that negates the lap and won't count towards your qualifying. So you want to have a lap that counts. So it's always good to go out and book one, a nice conservative lap, and then you can let things fly and try and get your best time in. So many times we've seen people, try and get out there and qualify the fastest lap they can on every lap, and they get off tracks and get their laps erased, and they end up back at the field, even though they may have the speed.
That is always how it happens, unfortunately. But we'll, of course, see what occurs with tonight's race. A lot of time still left to play with these guys. Just under a minute here, so we should see a number of laps changing. No one's put it in for the time being and called it a day, so we'll have to see. I will say the start's going to be an interesting one for us. 1, 2, and up through the S's are a tricky part of this circuit on initial laps, as well as Degner 1 and 2. Those are tricky when you're in a crowd, I think.
Yes, for sure. The eases after the first sort of long sweeping corner, it gets quite narrow, and the left rights with 2 wide and sometimes 3 wide can make things a little tricky. So, but so far, all the races we've had so far in this series, the guys have been pretty good off the starts, and there hasn't been any major calamities. And people are falling in line and taking it easy and being respectful. So it's a good thing to see. Makes for good racing here because you don't get half the field out of the race at the first corner.
No, I absolutely agree, and I think that will be what we're going to be expecting from that one. But I think our time just ticks over. We're starting to see the pace car head out on track, so let's go through your running order for tonight's race. Tyler Guillemette from the Pro Beneficiaries leads the way there with Matt Smotherman behind him. We've got Jesse Elliott there in the pros with Chris Walsh there behind him. Gabriel Albano, Ed Nelson, Scott Andrews for Pro Beneficiaries, and Hunter Reeve for Pro Beneficiaries as well. Joe Stiffel, Martin Wallace, and Nate Stacey. And then in the GT4s, we have Greg Meismer for the Beneficiaries with Connor Parisi as well. Nick Millerano leading the Open class with Bradley Beeman. Matt Ayotte for the Beneficiaries with Felipe Carrillo for the Open class. Rick Haslett for the Open. Tyler Beeman, Brian Winker, Kyle Smith, Jake Porter, Elliot Whitfield, and Brian Knight, both Beneficiaries. Well, it's going to be a short pace up here. The cars are starting just behind 130R, which is weird because it's not a right-hand corner.
That's right. Nice easy left, and then through the chicane, and then onto the start-finish. So not much of a time to warm up your tires here. It's just get behind the pace car and get going.
Oh, I was wrong. That corner I was talking about before, Spoon, is called 200R, which is appropriate because it's a right-hand turn. But 130R is a left-hander. Why Japan? Why? But then again, I can say why Japan? Why for many, many, many subjects?
Because they drive on the wrong side of the road.
I mean, there is that. Well, the right side to me, of course. Yeah. I'm British, but why Japan is a very common phrase, especially when I watch anything from that country on TV. They are very creative people, I'll leave it at that. Either way, we're getting ready to start here. The pace car will pull off, leaving the field in the control of Tyler Guillemette and Greg Meismer behind him for the GT4 cars. And we'll go already. Guillemette and Smotherman leading the way here. A big jump by Guillemette. Smotherman is actually being jumped already by Elliott. And Walsh, who's already in this one as well. Behind them in GT4s, they're across the line already. Good run by Meismer and Parisi here, but we'll keep our eyes on the pros. It's getting a little busy up there. Oh, gonna car sideways, that is. Gonna be Chris Walsh. Oh no!
Ooh,
and
Chris,
contact with a car from the back of that grouping there. And this is
Joe
003 of Stiffel. What happened to him? He got on the grass himself and lost the back of the car. We told you that the S's could be difficult.
Yes, especially at the start with cold tires. You'll see Chris here coming around on the inside, and well, it looks like, yeah, just grabbed the outside grass there, and the car went around on him.
Yeah, unfortunate contact there with Stiffel. But, yeah, that puts Walsh back to pit road here, unfortunately, at the start of the race. We're seeing a good run and control here by the Lamborghini of Guillemette. Over the Porsche behind him with Matt Smotherman. Oh, there's Joe Stiffel's view on the camera. Oh, nowhere to go.
Yes, all he saw was a cloud of smoke and was hoping for the best, but unfortunately the car was there across the track. Hopefully his car's not too bad. It looked like he carried on.
Oh, we'll have to hope he does, because that's unfortunate for him. But, whew, that was a spicy little moment back there. Looking down our GT4 field. Pretty tame for the guys at the moment as they're coming through Spoon. No major issues there. Our leader's coming up now through 130R. Up towards the Casio Triangle now. Big braking here through one of the trickier sections to get right. You've got to set it up perfectly for the speed out, especially if you're battling, as we have a little bit further down the field, We have Albano, and we have the 44 of Reeve as well. Reeve in that Ford GT. This time actually doing relatively well. He's going forwards here.
Yes, he's got that thing under control tonight, it looks like, and he's charging towards the front.
Yes, he absolutely is. Well, making themselves very useful in tonight's one, I think, here. As up the hill they'll come. Once again for lap number 2 now. And we're seeing a real grouping here at the front of your pro class with the 2 pro beneficiaries and the pro driver of Elliott. Elliott absolutely hounding the back of Smotherman here. This is unusual.
Yes, normally Matt is out front. Matt Sutherland's out front, so Tyler is keeping him at bay so far. And with Chris Walsh out of the race, or at least further down the field here after that first lap incident, some of the other pros have the opportunity to gain some points here on him tonight. So I think they'll be looking their chops here to try and make their best finish here and make the best of a situation that was unfortunate for Chris.
Yeah, that would definitely be the case. Well, at the moment, everything is in a stable, safe manner, I'd like to say. We've had no other incidents beyond that one initial lap 1 incident in the S's. I say that and Kyle Smith decides to go drifting in the dirt. I know we're in Japan. We're not in Formula Drift, Kyle. Let's keep it on the black stuff. He is going once again, no problems for him. He's just took a vacation to the dirt. He just felt like having some fun. I mean, it is fun, but we'll say that is a relatively tricky corner there. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a bit of the commentator's curse there from
yeah.
Rachel.
I know, right? Like, once again, here we go. And he's come off in the hairpin as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's struggling with the track tonight.
Yes, let's just hope Godzilla doesn't appear and make things worse. He's towed that car back to pit road, unfortunately, so we'll see what happens with him. As it stands, we have some movement to the field. Brian Knight's working his way forwards. He's going after, or being chased, I should say, by Nick Milanio, who's gone backwards quite a way. Surprising for Milanio, but towards the front in this grouping, still pretty tight. Everyone's still making good traffic and good time. The 4 at the front have been joined by Ed Nelson on board here. Who's that ahead of them? That's Nate Stacey in P8. So that'll be Albano and Reeve up ahead. You can see the 4 GT there. Up through Dunlop curve here. Cresting left-hander, quite flat. Wants to throw to the outside of that corner. You've got to hold it to the left here though, Rodney, to turn in for Degner 1, which is relatively simple, but then it tightens so much for Degner 2, kicking out under this bridge here, which can be very, very, very slick part of the racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely a little slick, and then coming into the diving into the hairpin here, very hard braking, very hard on the brakes, and a little contact there. Nick Stacey gave a little love taps to looks like Albano.
Little bit of a tap, but everyone keeping themselves relatively well behaved here. Could always be worse, of course. They do like to try and test us sometimes, but it was a nudge. That was just a nudge. I think that's mildly acceptable as a whoopsie. Everyone should have gotten at that without much damage at all, apart from he really wanted to make sure there was at least something for the pit crew to repair there, so he slapped the arm go.
Yep, he's up and going here, so I think he's fine. He's got to charge his way back.
Now, of course, this is a very high throttle track, Rodney. What are we expecting on our pit window tonight?
Well, they've got a little bit less fuel than they had last week, so we'll see the pit stops, I think, a little earlier than we did last week. Last week it was just a splash and dash at the very end for the last lap almost for the race. So this tonight's race, we should be seeing, about 20 minutes in, we should be seeing that pit window closing. It'll be open probably any time now. So depending on strategy or how your car is performing, we could see people coming in early, but typically they'll wait till about 20 minutes into the race.
I think so too, yeah. The way things are looking, 30% fuel, the cars are running. We've typically had, with a high throttle track, a 10 minutes or so pit window. So it might be slightly shorter today, closer to the halfway point. It might be a little bit more broad than that, but it will be a run on that new fuel. It will not be a case of take a little bit and go. So do we think we might see a tyre call?
Because it's a little, they have time to take a set of tires, so 2 tires. They can take tires and fuel at the same time. They can take 2 tires and not impact their overall pit time, because taking fuel will actually take longer than changing 2 tires. But it's the car handles quite differently on 2 tires versus 4 new tires. So it'll be interesting to see if we do see some take tires. But it is a short half-hour race, so there's no real need probably to take tires, unless people are feeling that their fronts are worn to the point where they need to make a change.
Of course. Now, one of the big things to question here is that this aircraft, what am I talking about? This track is very abrasive. Got a replay coming up for you here. This was between Stacy and Co. and Reeve. Looking for a move there. Good. Oh, went round. Just got caught up there in 130R. Spun off into the gravel. But no major contact, so keeping going here. That's good.
Yeah, I think when your car's going nose to tail out through that corner as well, you can get a little air off your wing and lose a little bit of downforce, and I think that's what happened to the back of that Porsche as he spun around at that very high speed left-hand corner.
Absolutely. And as I was going to say, this track is, of course, in Japan. Japanese asphalt, whereas in most, Western countries, typically contains an aggregate, correct? Asphalt contains aggregate. In Japan, that tends to be volcanic in origin, meaning it is very fine, leading to a very smooth racetrack with low grip. However, it's very high wearing, so it can be a very, very difficult track on tyres without giving you much grip in return.
Yeah, for sure. I think on some of the longer races, you'll certainly see that. I think with the half-hour race tonight, though, I think we'll be fine on tires. I have noticed when I've run here on longer races, they run a 12-hour race here, I think in the fall, iRacing does, and you certainly, towards the end of your stints, you can feel that your tires are basically gone away on you.
Yeah, that's quite correct. Of course, difficult track, making things difficult for our drivers here as always, but of course, we do need to be concerned, naturally, about how this is going to... Oh, Chris Walsh there off the track. He's had a rough day today, hasn't he?
Yes,
He's been trying to work his way back. He's a lap down here, unfortunately, after having to tow that car.
I noticed he's also the last week and this week he's driving the BMW as well. I remember the first few races he was in the Ford, so he's changed cars here, so he might be struggling with this car. That's not a car that I typically see him in. Typically I've seen him run in the Porsches, or we saw him like in the Ford earlier in the season. So interesting to see if he's just struggling. Probably doesn't have a lot of time to practice in that car, and but Chris is a good driver. I'm sure he'll get it dialed in here, and we'll be back fighting next week.
I'm sure he will. Speaking of fighting, up at the front it is Guillemette and Smotherman, but it's not Smotherman leading. Tyler Guillemette in the 5, that Lamborghini, absolutely hoofing it here, has kept Smotherman behind him all race here. They're 0.2 of a second apart, but he cannot find a way through here, Rodney.
Yeah, I'm really surprised.
Weird situation, because Tyler's normally a great driver, but Matt's off in the distance somewhere. Where's he found this?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the courses, and people tend to be better at some courses than others, and this course may fit Tyler's driving style a bit better. It's we've seen Matt lead these races and put big gaps behind him here, so he's not used to having to follow a car. So we'll see how he handles the rest of the race and whether he can get around Tyler. Tyler's doing a good job of keeping out in front of him, and right now there's about 0.3 or so behind the car in front, so there's a bit of a space there, but not much breathing room here.
Indeed. Well, we'll have to see what they can do with how this further forward is. That was not even English. We'll have to see how this goes moving forward, but the gap has been pretty constant. We'll have to see what he can do with that. Looking down towards our beneficiaries, though, Meismer's been caught by Parisi, who is absolutely hauling in that Mercedes, and we're starting to see him begin to attack here, I think, at this midpoint-ish of the race. Are we going to see him try and fight for this lead?
I think he's going to try and everything he can. It's some of these races, you've got to get behind somebody and follow them for 3 or 4 laps to try and size up where your best opportunity or where you think you're faster on the course than the driver in front and take advantage of that. Got a good draft here coming down the long straight, but does he have enough to make it in the corner?
That's
Doesn't
going to
look
be
like
tough, of course. It might be a first, front straight or a next lap job for this sort of pass. But there's a little bit of a wiggle there from Meismer.
Yeah, that's a tough corner. It's a very fast corner. You've got to be on your game coming through that corner. I'm sure he's feeling the pressure.
It looks simple, but is really a tricky corner to keep speed through and keep the car straight. Especially the low downforce on these vehicles, it can be a real handful. But we've seen he's stronger at seeming into the short, slow speed corners than we've seen from Connor.
Yeah, I've heard earlier tonight from some of the drivers that were complaining in the GT4 cars about the downforce and not having enough, or feeling like they didn't have enough for this course. So some of the GT4 cars will be struggling with that, and you have to be careful, especially in some of these high-speed corners where you don't necessarily have the downforce that maybe you think you should have.
Tiptoeing almost, in fact, in some of these corners, but mechanically it does seem as though Greg Meismer has something on this, and maybe that's the same with Tyler. Maybe he has the mechanical grip for the slower corners.
Yeah, and having that grip in the corners helps you get that speed off the corners onto the straight. So your car can be as fast as can be a bit faster on the straight, but if the car in front is getting a better run off the corners because he's got better grip in the corners, it's very hard to catch up to him. So you just end up catching up to him at the end of the straight where you're into the corner, and you can't get a run in the straight because you're not getting that same run off the corner that the car that has better grip does.
Absolutely. All these gaps are maintaining somewhat here from what we're seeing right now. Brian Knight is up there in 8th for his class. Trying to work his way forwards at the moment, but Guillemette and Smotherman times about half a second between those two. We're seeing a similar gap with Meismer and Parisi. It's both identical pairings for the front two. Two sets of drivers where we've seen winners from both, and both still being incredibly strong.
Yeah, we're starting to see the leaders here come up on some lap traffic here, so it'll be interesting. And there we go. Had a car off to the right there, but Tyler got by, and looks like Matt did as well. That was a close call.
Got a replay for all you here. We'll see that lap car picking a wrong moment. Meismer hits pit road. Oh, that was bad. Oh, talk about timing. Someone towed as quickly as they could there, but I think that was a heart-stopping moment for our drivers. But yeah, we have your leader from the GT4s and beneficiaries on pit road. That is Greg Meismer.
Yeah, I think
gone for the lap.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him come in that early. So perhaps he was coming up on some lap traffic and wanted to deke in there early.
Would be the excellent call. Now, Conor Parisi is leading in the moment because of that pit stop. And, it feels like a wonderful time to go ahead and hit our beneficiary driver spotlight, who is, dun dun dun, Conor Parisi. But with that in mind, he says he spent 7 years in the US Air Force. He was stationed at Joint Base Andrews the whole time and assigned to the 811th Security Forces Squadron. There, he was looking up to support the Presidential Airlift Mission, securing Air Force One and all other presidential and foreign heads of states and VIP arrivals and departures from Andrews. Due to the nature of his squadron, he did not send a lot of teams on deployments, he says, and was never sent downrange. Currently, he's joined the dark side, and he's now a DoD contractor. He's living at currently the site lead of IT support for the New London submarine base in Groton, Connecticut. probably butchered that one. His previous contracting job was IT support for US SOCOM at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Tech support for SOCOM. That is a great job. I just hope, their internet doesn't go down during, a mission. That could be awkward. In terms of family, he says he has a wife who is out of his league and a little pupper. So he has a child. Pet animals are children. That's how that works. How has iRacing helped him? Well, iRacing's been one of the best investments he could have made. From scratching his competitive itch to the camaraderie of working for a team for a common goal is something he truly loves. Now, he says he doesn't have any pictures of his time in the military, but he wants us to show a picture of him racing his Ford Fiesta, if we can do that. There, it's on screen. There's his Ford Fiesta, which is awkwardly quite similar to my name, White Ford. There you go. He says it's from a track cross event at Summit Point Motorsport Park, and he'll also be racing this Wicked Fast Fiesta this weekend in an SCCA Rallycross event. Well, Connor Parisi, thank you for your service, and go fast in that little Ford. I must say, I do love the Fiestas. They're a neat little car. I drive a Focus myself, which is the Fiesta's fat cousin, and whilst they're great, the Fiestas are a machine.
Absolutely, I love the little cars, little fast cars too. They're fun. I had a Mini Cooper S back in the day when I was in university, and it was a blast. It's always a hoot to drive cars that are small but fast.
You know what? If Connor ends up on the podium tonight, I actually have a question to ask him, which I'm going to be very careful about asking, but I will ask it nonetheless, given his line of work. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, if he does end up on the podium. Fingers crossed. Of course, he needs to pit. We know that his competitor, Greg Meismer, has pitted. Matt Smotherman's still out. Oh, he's on pit road now. Smotherman has hit pit road. He's just leaving, in fact. Oh, Hunter Reeves, sorry, has hit pit road, which I believe means Matt possibly has as well. I will quickly check this. He has indeed hit pit road, so Matt's hit pit road. Tyler Guillemette has also hit pit road. We're seeing Hunter do it now. Everyone's pitting around this halfway mark, or this, well, no, 10 to go. So you were actually bang on the money, Rodney.
It looks like Matt was able to get Tyler through the pit stop cycle and has come out in front here.
This is one thing I think a lot of road drivers do not practice enough, which is pit entry and exit. It is free time. Myself, who was never exactly the fastest on the racetrack, knew that if I could get free time anywhere, I might as well get it, whether it was road or oval racing. I practiced a lot of pit entries and exits because it was free time.
Well, absolutely. We saw before they went in that there was only half a second in between those two cars, and if you can gain 3/4 of a second through the pit stop cycle, well, there you go. You pop out in front of the car that you were following, even though you may not have been faster on the racetrack, but you've got that free time, and it's very important. And that's why we have these pit stops in these races, so that the guys can, use a little strategy when to come in, and also, executing those pit stops with the lowest amount of time is very beneficial, especially if you're in close racing with the guy in front, because you can pop out in front of them, and that's a good feeling when you come out of the pits and you see the headlights of your competitor behind you that was formerly in front of you, and you didn't have to pass him on the track, you passed him in the pits.
Absolutely is. Well, we're seeing Hunter come back from his pit out lap, so we'll see where he slots in order. He had a good stop, in fact, from what I've seen in the numbers. So we've also had a retirement from Chris Walsh as well, to update you guys. So far from the Pro Class, Gabriel Albano and Chris Walsh both listed as retirements there. Hunter moved down to 4th place here, so 3rd in the Pro Beneficiaries, with Ed Nelson being our sole Pro driver up there in the top grouping, currently over 3rd overall, but leading the Pro cars, essentially. Connor Parisi is still leading the way here. He has still to pit, so we will expect to see him in at some point. He lost on time last lap, 2 seconds off the ball compared to his previous laps, so a bit of traffic possibly causing issue. I think now would be a good time to pit, honestly.
Yes, sometimes if you have a slight off and you lose time on that lap, it's good to come in and you already have a slow lap going, so why ruin another lap by making a pit stop? So sometimes it's a good strategy to come in and take that pit stop on a slower lap, so you can have more faster laps later.
That is one way to put it, yes. Well, keeping our eyes on how this will shake out. Greg Meismer, relative to Connor, is actually ahead of him on the racetrack. So have we actually seen Connor pit that we didn't catch it on screen? That is possible. It's not a lapse worth of time, so he may have actually lost more positions than we thought in that stop sequence. So we'll have to check this out as they cross the line here, but I think Meismer will be resuming the lead here. And this will put Connor, we think, in second, but it may not be. I think he's got a couple of GT4 cars around him. Yes, there he is, second place. So he did lose time again, but we've had 2 positions change in both class leads on pit road, furthering my point.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why these pit stops are important.
Certainly are. Well, as we have now 7 minutes remaining on the board, that's Tyler Gilliatt in second. Close here to Matt, but Matt, now he's gotten past him, has run off, which is the Matt we expect to see, I think, to some extent. Tyler's running fast still, his laps are good, but
yeah, Tyler Tyler's just catching some lap traffic in some bad spots there, and that's sometimes the luck of the draw. Sometimes when you're racing, especially as you move through lap traffic, it seems that sometimes the guy in front's catching the lap traffic on the straights and passing him no problem, and you're catching up to him in the corners and have to slow down. So it's just the way it goes sometimes, and usually it goes back and forth and evens out in the end, but we'll see if Tyler can put the pedal to the metal here and catch up to Matt. But Matt, I think, he's got the bit in his teeth here and wants to finish this out.
Yeah, I think he absolutely does. We'll see this one go through to the hard end. Meismer and Priest are close, but Connor's lost a lot of time. He is still second, but he's second by about 4 seconds adrift from Greg. So that was a big change in the pits, and I think the traffic has definitely been a big influence in this one.
Yeah, it's almost mirror races going on here between the two, and in the GT3s and the two top drivers in the GT4s. They both flipped over in the pits, and now the new leaders have stretched out their leads here to a couple of seconds. So,
oh, Connor's catching some really bad traffic there in the Casio Triangle. Again, just really, really awkward traffic placement he's finding. And it's lap cars as well for him. He's had a couple of really awkward places he's caught traffic. Really not been his luck this race, I don't think, unfortunately, but it's still second by a good metric, as a few of these guys are lapped down from this, but we've seen the leaders actually lapping your GT4 cars now, so Matt and Tyler are coming through there to lap this group.
yeah, absolutely. We talked about it at the beginning of the race here, as the GT3s will lap through the GT4s, and here we're seeing them go right through the entire field here as Matt takes it to the inside of
Greg
Meismer as they sends him a lap down, and everybody now all the GT4s are now a lap down.
That's every single car in the GT4 field has been lapped here. We're on 4 minutes 20 remaining on the race, and we're expecting at least 3 laps, I think, at the way we're looking time-wise here. So we'll see 3 laps remaining in this race. As it stands, Matt Smotherman's time is now 2.3 seconds ahead of Tyler Gilliatt. Nelson's in third. He's about 9 seconds adrift now of that grouping. Hunter Reeve 1 second behind him. So we might see Ed Nelson and Hunter duke it out shortly, although Ed does seem a little bit quicker at the moment. He's got a bit of a gap. Moulton Wallace is also in that group as well. Traffic is catching everyone at the moment, it seems. I've just seen Hunter catch a lap car that got in his way heading into the first part of Spoon, and it seems like this has been a really tough track for that today.
Yeah, it just seems like that. Sometimes these races, you don't get all the luck with the lap traffic. You can see Ed here stretching out the lead here on, but you can see Hunter is in the background here, so the headlights are in his rearview mirror. So Ed's got to continue to focus on putting in good laps here. as the Ford of Hunter is trying to chase him down.
He is indeed. We'll see that one play through. Hunter's car wasn't great last week at Kota. It struggled at a high-speed track with curvy sections. Do you think he's just staying with the car because he knows it for a track like this? Because Kota and, I'd say, Suzuka share a lot of similarities.
Yeah, but I think there is a little bit more grip here at Suzuka than there was at Kota. Kota was a very difficult track because of the lack of grip that track seems to have. But
I'd say they share that metric.
Yeah, but Suzuka still has a little bit more grip, I think. Kota is probably, like, in my mind, the track with the least amount of grip in all the tracks we race on around through this series. But Hunter's, stuck with the Ford. I think he's committed to drive that car at the beginning of the series, and I think he's going to stick it out. So it's good for him to, take on the challenge of a car that maybe he's not so familiar with. And he is gaining here, as Ed is ahead of him, has got some lap traffic too as well to deal with. So he's got an opportunity. You can see his Corey in front of him, as whether he has enough time to chase him down and get that pass done before the checkered is another story. But knowing Hunter, he's certainly going to give it his all. Here we can see Connor, and he's kind of starting to lose sight of his Corey in front of him. Looks like as they go across the line here, Greg has a looks like about a second, 3/4 of a second lead on Connor. As they're starting to wind down here, we were down to the last few seconds of the race, so the leader next time by should be on the white flag lap. Everybody's now concentrating on trying to bring it home here in one piece. You never want to make a big mistake on the last lap of the race. So they're focusing on trying to bring it home. Maybe we can go ahead and look at the leaders here and see where Matt is compared to the start-finish. And there they came right across the line there. So at the end of the day, Matt brought it home for the victory. Excellent job on his part. Good strategy in the pits. And now we see Greg and Connor bringing it back in the same order. Connor was able to bring that gap down, but wasn't able to close it towards the end of the race.
You know
So
what?
we're having...
In fact, back actually, Rodney. I think you're.
Oh. I was doing my best play-by-play as we were having some technical difficulties with your mic there, Rachel.
The wonderful world of the Intertubes decided no dice for you today, briefly, but we are back. And I believe we have, what, 2 minutes left on the clock here, just under that, as we come to the end of this race. I think we do, yes. Rodney's not answering me now, so I'm wondering if I can even be heard. So, you know,
Yes,
there we
yes.
go.
Okay, I thought we were down to the last
I don't know, it says
lap,
1
but I
minute
guess
30 on the clock for me.
it had gone down to 0 at one point. So.
That's what I thought too, but apparently it hasn't. I don't know why, but time travel is weird right now, from what I can tell.
They've time traveled back so that you can call the end of the race. How's that?
That's so wonderful of them. It felt like it was 2 minutes to go when I actually lost my voice. So we have a minute left. So yeah, we are correct. 1 minute remaining. Time travel exists. It's real. Doc Brown told me so. Either way, Matt Smotherman leading the way here, but Tyler Gilmet has caught him up somewhat. It is down to about second on the track for them. Greg Meismer has been caught somewhat as well by Connor Parisi. So Connor's just gone past him. Greg, let him go. Dude,
No.
Greg, stop it. He's out of fuel.
No, the race is done, so we're.
Oh, wait, so it's not
just-
over.
It is over. It is
What
over.
is it? Who am I? Where are we? I thought we had a minute left. I got told a second ago by the producer 1 minute left. So I'm like, oh, this is the final lap. We have time, but then it's not. So I do apologise for my utter unprofessionalism tonight. This has just got very confused by everything. So the field is running down now. We have got the final run of the race here. We will be back in just a moment with your post-race results, which will be correct, and the post-race interviews, which will be real. Don't go anywhere, or do and go back in time.
Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and women enlist in the armed forces for many reasons, including a sense of duty, patriotism, the adventure, travel, and adrenaline. When service members are injured or wounded and can no longer perform their military duties, they quickly find themselves removed from their team, no longer serving the purpose for which they trained.
I came back from Afghanistan in 2013, and it was kind of a trial and error of finding out, after the military, what's next in life.
Motorsports offers an opportunity to regain that sense of identity within a safe, fast-paced team environment, providing a renewed sense of purpose. Like in the military, in motorsports the goal is in accomplishing the mission, winning as a team, collectively celebrating the successes and supporting teammates through the losses. Operation Motorsport also offers virtual engagements and recovery opportunities through an iRacing league, engaging beneficiaries in a safe, competitive environment from the comfort and safety of their home. Operation Motorsport believes in the power of team, identity, and purpose.
Welcome back. If you time travelled, how was it? I know we did. It was confusing. But either way, we have our post-race results here, and it was Matt Smotherman took the win, with Tyler Gilmet in second, Hunter Reeve in third, so it was a triple for the pro beneficiaries there, with Ed Nelson leading the pros in fourth overall, Martin Wallace, Nate Stacey, Scott Andrews, Jesse Elliott there. And then we have beneficiaries in GT4, Greg Meismer, Connor Parisi, we have Joe Stiffel behind that, we've already called him, Bradley Beeman, we have, for the Open, Rick Hassett as well, Felipe Carrillo, we have Matt Ayotte, we have Tyler Beamon, we have Nick Milaranio, Brian Winker, Brian Knight, Jake Porter, Elliot Whitfield, Kyle Smith, Chris Walsh, and Gabriel Albano, all three of whom were retirees. Without further ado, we'll bring up Matt Smotherman tonight to have a quick chat to him. Matt, how was it following a car today? It seems like it's one of the few times we've seen you do that.
I mean, that was the only reason I ended up in first, I think, because following Tyler for as long as I did meant that I ended up saving a little bit of fuel with that draft, and I think that was the difference that I needed whenever it came to the pit stop. Otherwise, he would have stayed in front of me the entire time.
I think so. How was this track to drive? It did seem like it was a little more liberal on the grip.
Yeah, it is a little more liberal on the grip. I mean, it's such a like you have to be so there's so many high-speed sweeping turns, especially, and I always forget the name of it, but the left-handed kink before the final chicane. I mean, that killed me so many times in practice, and I think even in qualifying. I was just convinced every single time I went around it that I was going to die. But when it wasn't trying to kill me, it was a fantastic track to drive on.
I expect so. Just in terms of how this place drives, describe for me the differences to somewhere like Kota.
Well, I actually would draw a lot of similarities to Coda, at least in terms of certain sections. Like the S's in Coda remind me a lot of the S's on this track, because they're S's, they're high-speed turns, but also because they require a certain level of technique, and if you don't apply that technique correctly, you're going to lose a hefty amount of time to some of your competitors. So I would actually say it's very similar to Coda in a lot of ways, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, that does seem logical, really. Favorite corner on the track?
Oh, I would say the first turn, because when you nail that just right, and you nail your downshifts, you time everything just right to get that late apex after at the end of T1, or that might even be T2 and 3, depending on how many apexes they count there. That it just feels so sweet when you get it right.
Oh, that sounds absolutely right about that one. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Shout out to my older brother, who doesn't actually use iRacing very much. Like, he just got iRacing, so he's about ready to join all the cool kids and have a lot of fun like the rest of us. But he usually watches a lot of these broadcasts and listens to you guys' great commentary, so shout out to him if he's watching this one as well.
Well, I hope he's not, because we sounded like we were on some sort of drugs today.
I'm sure that's not true.
No, it is. We got very confused over timing. It was weird. Either way, thank you for joining us, Matt.
Thank
we'll
you.
hope to talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.
Well, next up, we have the winner for the beneficiary class, Greg Meismer. Greg, fantastic run today. Again, you had a really tight battle with Connor for a lot of that today. Tell me about that.
That was really tight the whole time. The pit stop I made, I thought might be a little questionable, but it looks like it paid off.
It seemed like you went for a really early timing, and the same thing happened, I think, up at the front with Greg as well. He went for an early stop. Well, sorry, Matt went for an early stop over Greg, which seemed to give you both an advantage with the early stop.
Yeah, my thinking was if I go in a little early, I can save a little bit of time by not having to put in as much fuel for the end. And so I guess it ended up working, and I think Connor ran out of fuel coming down pit lane or something like that, so it bought me a little extra time there.
That would explain the big time difference then. What do you think of this track compared to the rest of the season?
I love Suzuka. It's one of my all-time favorite tracks.
Well, that absolutely showed today. Anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
You guys over at Podium for putting on the broadcast, obviously. Operation Motorsports, Tiffany and Diesel for getting everything going, and Martin Wallace, my ZFG teammate, Kyle, also a ZFG teammate, and everybody else involved. To make it a lot easier.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Greg, and we will see you hopefully next week.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Right, next up, we have Rodney standing by here with Connor Precy.
Good evening, Connor. Congratulations on your podium finish tonight. Second place. I don't think you were too happy with that, given that you led the good portion of the race. What happened? To explain what happened in the pit stop cycle to us.
Yeah, I got a little too brave pushing the fuel. I saw Greg pull off, and I had exactly 2 laps left, so I figured I would save just a little bit and try to make it those last 2 laps, which was slow, and I still ran out of gas coming down the pit lane, so lost a bit of time to him there, and could never quite reel him back in. He was wicked fast tonight.
Yeah, it was. You guys put on a good show, but he just seemed to, once he got that lead, wasn't going to seem to give it back to you that easily, that's for sure.
No, I was hoping for a couple more laps. I think we could have got a little spicy there, but you got it done tonight.
Right, and next week we're off to Montreal to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the Belle Province of Quebec. What do you think of that track, and how do you feel your car performs in that kind of a tight chicane type traffic? A little different track than we were seeing with the high flowing corners that we saw tonight.
I am a big anti-chicane guy, so it's one of my least favorite tracks. But it's one of those places where if you're brave on the curbs, you can get some time. So we're going to throw her in there.
Excellent. Anybody you'd like to shout out and thank for your efforts here tonight?
Yeah, I got to thank all the guys on the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, Next Level Racing, Apex Gaming PCs, Pimax, and the guys at Operation Motorsports, and you guys for putting on the show.
Excellent. We'll look forward to seeing you next week in Montreal.
Thanks, fellas.
Well, with that, we now have Matt Ayotte. Is it Matt Ayotte, yes?
That's correct.
Awesome. Matt, congratulations tonight on third place. Busy races seemed. You seem to be in a bit of a blender for a lot of it with traffic.
Yeah, it just I got a really bad start. We started 10 seconds behind the GT3s, and that kind of put us right in the last two turns. And I wasn't ready to push too hard right off the green. And I got pinched off, and it put me back, so I had to fight my way from, ninth or something like that. So I fought back up, and then Felipe put on a good fight. I kept we were battling back and forth a little bit, and then he took it, and then for whatever reason I ran out of fuel a little bit too early than my liking. So that put me where I am.
Well, it definitely seems to be one of those tracks that's going to be either good for seasons or bad for seasons. Obviously, we seem to go to a lot of shorter, tighter circuits coming towards the end of the season. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I come from a rally background. I used to do rally racing with the Canadian Rally Championship. So I really like nice, tight, technical driving. It'll be interesting to get these cars to rotate enough around the corners.
Certainly will be. Well, we'll have to see what happens then. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
I'll just thank you guys for supporting Operation Motorsports with your broadcast. I hope it garners interest and stuff you do. I hope some veterans out there see what we're doing, and they may want to take the plunge into sim racing or even other Operation Motorsports programs that we have available. So hopefully, if they're out there watching, they see that as a call to arms.
Oh, I completely agree with you. Hopefully we do see that as well. Thank you for joining us, Matt, and congratulations on third place.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
And you too. Well, folks, it is the end of the night. And thank you to series partners of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, iRacing, and the USO of North Carolina. For Jason Leach, Diesel Loader, Chris Ramirez, and the entire Operation Motorsport team. For Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore at Podium Esports. Camera builder Dougie Beard, our producer Gary Sexton. Cameron Obenon on social media, and for my colleague this evening, Rodney Campbell. I'm your host, Rachel Whiteford. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, and we wish you a good night.